Welcome back to the World Leaders edition of the Edora Crilley Report. Now we're going to be talking about Vladimir Putin, who is the president of the Russian Federation. He was a former KGB officer, and his grandfather was a cook to Lenin and Stalin. He never formally resigned from the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. In September 2007, Putin dismissed his government and placed a good friend as an ally as prime minister. This move appears to discredit Russia's budding democracy. Putin will not be allowed to run for president next term, but sources say he plans to become prime minister with a good friend as president. Putin is outspoken in his dislike of the West, especially America, who he says uses too much force, and disagreed with the U.S.'s invasion of Iraq without UN support. So now that we know a little bit about Putin, we're going to bring our guest, Jason Newton, back, who will ask a couple of questions. Thanks for coming back, Jason.
Glad to be back.
Alright, so I kind of just want to know your opinion on Putin's dismissing of his government.
I don't think it was a good idea. From what I could tell, the government was running pretty effectively. From what I've heard, basically he called in the prime minister one day and just announced that he was replacing him. Gave really no reason to the Duma, which is the parliament there. No reason to the public of why he was doing it, even though constitutionally the president of the Russian Federation does have the right to fire the government whenever he wants to. I personally think it was a mistake, particularly as the government was doing pretty well at the time.
Do you think this is indicative of a deeper corruption within Russia's government?
It could be. I personally, I don't see it completely that way. There's no doubt that the corruption is a problem in the Russian political system, but I don't think the dismissing of the government was any indication that the corruption is getting strong. I think it was just Putin trying to shore up support ahead of elections in December and the March elections, which he hopes his ally will win.
Okay, so Putin can't run for president next term.
That's correct. The Constitution says he's got only 2 terms.
He can run again after this next term, but what do you think about him becoming prime minister of Russia?
I think it is a step back from democracy. It shows that Putin likes power. I think that's pretty much it. They've been recently saying that right now, while the prime minister's position is pretty much weak in compared to the presidency, once March elections are over and an ally of Putin is probably in the Kremlin, that a constitutional amendment may be passed to transfer much of the powers of the president to the prime minister, and thus giving Putin a pretty good hold on the country.
So you think the country is moving backwards from democracy?
I do. This reminds me of the Soviet times from what I've been reading. This is just like the General Secretary of the Communist Party, how it was the main broker of power while the president was just a tutelar head of state.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason.
No problem.
Thanks. This will end our Vladimir Putin section of the Edora Crilley Report, World Leaders Edition. Next, we're going to have Eugene with Kim Jong-il of North Korea.